Today we'll be working in my workbook called The 38 Years of Wandering, which is on numbers 15 through 19. And we've actually completed all the chapters except the last one. So with that last one, we're actually working on numbers 33, 16 to 36, because it does happen. It talks about the events between numbers 19 and numbers 20. This is what has happened right after God has said that they are going to wander the wilderness for another 38 years until all the men over 20 years of age, military men, are killed. Korah and his allies, and there's a great rebellion over this. And I would expect if I was camping for 2 years, the idea of doing it for 38 more years is not really helpful, especially when the land is just right there. But so the cost of rebellion had gotten really high, but that got solved, and we have Aaron being rededicated as the high priest and his duties. You have the red heifer ritual finally that we hear about in the news occasionally, and the water purification, which they would need if they're going to lose about 50 bodies a day, roughly average. So now we get down to the actual 38-year journey. A 38-year journey, numbers 33, 16 through 36. Instead of writing about all their travels during the 38 years of wandering in the wilderness, Moses writes nothing. When all men over 20 years of age have died, 603,550 men per the census in Numbers 146, he gives a summary in Deuteronomy to the men who are now the new leaders of the Israelites who were younger than 20 years of age when the spies went into the promised land. It is only in this summary that we actually know the locations traveled between numbers 19 and 20. Why didn't Moses write about this time? There are several proposed reasons. It was a period of judgment. These 38 years were the sentence for Israel's lack of faith when they refused to enter the promised land. Because the purpose of this time was to wait for an entire rebellious generation to die off, the era is often viewed as a time that doesn't matter in the context of advancing God's plan. Lack of spiritual progress. The journey from Egypt to Kadesh Barnea, which is about 2 years, was a time of intense formation, and the final year was the preparation for conquest. The middle 38 years was a spiritual detour where no significant progress toward the promised land was being made. Relative peace and normality. Some suggest that once the initial rebellion passed, the people settled into a relative peaceful routine existence in the wilderness, without major uprisings or miraculous turning points to record. The text focuses only on ancestral lessons. I don't think that is the case at all. I don't see how a grumbling people can all of a sudden stop to grumble. Symbolic incapacitation. In biblical numerology, some interpret the number 38 as a sign of incapacitation or helplessness, representing a period where Israel was unable to move forward on its own strength. That's what I thought.
These are going to be hard words to pronounce again.
Oh, okay, no problem. I will read it then. Yeah, I'll read it then. No problem. So he did, just now that I've gone through this more, he did talk about it in Deuteronomy. And he also talked about it in Numbers. There were two reasons why he did the same thing. Numbers was just a recording of the events, which is what we're going to go through. Deuteronomy is where we went wrong in these events. So, and we actually followed Numbers, not Deuteronomy. Okay. They left the desert of Sinai and camped in Kibroth Hanavah. They left Kibroth Hanavah and camped at Hazarath. They left Hazarath and camped at Rithmah. Okay. On the map, not the scripture above, what was the first town the Israelites stopped at?
Tabitha.
Yeah, Taberah. Yeah.
Taberah.
What was the second place?
Kibroth and
Hanavah. Kibroth. Yeah, very good. And what was the third place?
Hazarah.
Right. The last place has a little bit of confusion. In the scripture, it says what place?
Rithmah.
Yet on the map, what town is number 4?
Kadesh Barnea.
Right, Chris. It's generally known as Kadesh Barnea, and it is That is where everything changes. So Rithma and Kadesh Barnea are basically the same town or very close to each other. They're used interchangeably. And so people have just put them as one town. Numbers 33:19. They left Rithma and camped at Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Rissa. They left Rissa and camped at Kehalath. Keha, yeah, whatever. Yeah. This travel is after God sentenced the Israelites to 38 additional years of wandering, and this is the first time we have heard about it. The map shows the best guesses as to where these cities are. I had a very, very hard time finding this map. Most people didn't even cover it. And so
Wow.
when I found this was an extreme treasure. From
Wow.
Rithma, where did they travel?
Ripman Perez.
Right, Rimmon Perez. From
Perez.
Rimmon Perez, where did they travel?
Libna.
No. Yeah, Libna. From Libna, where did they travel?
Risha.
And from Rishah, where did they travel?
Kihilasian.
Right.
Whatever. It's like learning a
Yeah.
new language.
Yeah. Then you kind of see, and this is the map maker's decision is where these are, because most of them don't exist now. But still, it's something. Circle the 5 cities, so they're all kind of right in there. Numbers 33:23. They left Kehilatha and camped at Mount Shepher. They left Mount Shepher and camped at Harada. They left at Harada and camped at Machalath. They left Machalath and camped at Tahath. From Kehilath, they traveled to where?
Mount Shepner.
Yeah. From Mount Shepner, yeah. They traveled to where?
Harada.
Yeah. From Harada, they traveled to where?
Mekhilah.
Good. And from Machalath, they traveled to where?
Tahath.
Right. This would be the evidence that you would give when kids are learning how to pronounce words and they say, why do I even need this? You need it to read the Bible.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Numbers 33:27. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left at Terah and camped at Milcah. They left Miltha and camped at Hashmanah. They left Hashmanah and camped at Mazarath. From Tahath, they traveled where?
Terah.
From Terah, they traveled where?
Mithka.
From Mithka, they traveled where?
Hashmona.
And from Hashmanah, they traveled where?
Mozrah.
Yeah, sure, that one. So yeah, it's up in this area here. We're up here. Okay. Numbers 33:31. They left Mazarath and camped at Ben Jachin. They left Ben Jachin and camped at Hor Haggadad. They left Hor Haggadad and camped at Jopbathah. They left Jopbathah and camped at Abranah. Sure. After Mazarath, they traveled where?
Ben Jachin.
After Ben Jachin, they traveled where?
Haggadad.
Right. After Hor Haggadad, they traveled where?
Joshbatha.
And after Jopbathah, they traveled where?
Abranah.
Right. And so those cities are up in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And Numbers 33:35. They left Abranah and camped at Ezen Geber. They left Ezen Geber and camped at Kadesh in the desert of Zin. After Abranah, they traveled where?
Ezen Geber.
Right on the edge of the Red Sea. Well,
Yeah.
what they would consider the Red Sea at that time. After Ezen Geber, they traveled back to where?
Kadesh.
Right, and it's truthfully Kadesh Barnea. Sometimes they just take the Barnea off.
Yeah.
Circle the first 2 cities. This was where the Lord had told him to go in Numbers. Since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn back tomorrow and set out toward the desert along the route to the Red Sea. So that's all they did. This is where Numbers 20 will start. So all that happened between Numbers 19 and Numbers 20. And he doesn't really give us this until later in Numbers.
Mm.
So that's the end of this chapter.
Yep.